Welcome to Buckets, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. This is your Monday NBA playoffs best bets episode. Joining me on this Sunday morning Mountain Time, afternoon on the East Coast is Joe Dellera. You can follow him on Twitter at Joe Dellera and in the Action Network app. Joe, buddy, how you enjoying the NBA playoffs so far?
NBA playoffs are good. My Knicks were 1-0, hot start. So we're what a quarter of the way to a sweep, So
So annoyed. Nightmarish weekend or Saturday for me. We'll see how Sunday shakes out. Nightmarish weekend for me. Either I got all the bad breaks from my analysis was just really, really off. All the things that I'm like, benches don't matter that much in the playoffs. The benches mattered a lot. Offensive rebounds, you can fix that with more effort. No, that mattered too. So I got absolutely slaughtered. We'll see if I can rebound on Sunday and going into Monday's slate. That's how it goes. Reminder, everything we talk about today can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. Best way for you to track your picks. You get up the second information where the bets and money and coming in. You can get all of Joe's picks in there. Just go to the follow button, search for Joe Dellera, and you'll find his picks in there. Joe, as we always do, we're going to go around the slate and say what our best bets for the Monday slate are. What are your best bets for Monday?
I'm going to be taking the Brooklyn Nets plus 10 and Steph Curry to have over 1.5 first quarter rebounds.
Okay. I am taking the Philadelphia 76ers minus 10, and I am taking the Golden State Warriors minus 1 because I enjoy pain. Let's go to your Curry pick first. So the Warriors lead for the majority of the game, lose it late behind an absolutely incredible run from De'Aaron Fox, who was absolutely sensational in that game. Really phenomenal performance. The Warriors had 31 assists. The Warriors had more three-pointers made. They won their minutes with Steph Curry, and yet they lose this basketball game behind, again, just a really incredible moment for the Kings franchise. In that game, the Warriors get the loss. The Kings win 126-123. Came down to the wire still, despite all of those dramatics from Fox. You mentioned Curry rebounds over 1.5 of the first quarter. What's the angle there?
So part of it is that his minutes really kind of change in the playoffs than they do in the regular season. And we saw this last year. It took him it took him a couple games, partially because he was returning from injury, I believe. I think if we all recall, like at the beginning of the playoffs. So they were trying to manage him a little bit, but then he winds up playing at least 10 minutes pretty much every game in the first quarter throughout the playoffs. And for the majority of first quarters, he plays the full first quarter. So game one against the Kings, played 10 minutes. And he recorded 3 first quarter assists, and his prop set at 5.5. So it's kind of hard for them to move this too far any which way, right? You're still paying a little bit of juice, maybe about 130. But when you look at his history over the past, like just looking even at last season, right? During the playoffs, once he started getting ramped up, he played 18 minutes or 18 games where he played basically the entire first quarter. He recorded 1 rebound in 16 and 2 or more in 14. So if we count this last game, he would have 15 of 19 games. You record 2 first quarter rebounds. So it's a good opportunity. We know this game is going to be played at a blistering pace. They had a 105.5 pace, which is just insane. So we're going to get a lot of possessions. We're going to get a lot of shots. And I like Curry to go over this total with Looney kind of being able to box out Sabonis a decent amount. I mean, he still gets a lot of boards, but, it gives an opportunity for Curry there on the offensive and defensive sides of the ball.
They do do a lot of box outs to make sure Curry gets the ball as quickly as possible, because if you get the ball in Curry, like this has been proven, and the Warriors are a very stats heavy organization. If you get the ball in your primary ball handler's hand quicker, that allows them to press if there's an opportunity, or just set the offense. You have to wait. Like those extra seconds matter, and offensive efficiency goes way up if those guys have the ball first. It's one of the secrets to the whole Westbrook is gaming rebounds. Well, the reason that Steven Adams was boxing out and letting Westbrook get those rebounds in OKC is the Thunder offense was always way better when Russ had the ball primarily. When he got the ball on a rebound, their offensive efficiency was way higher. I'm going to take Warriors -1. This opened again at Kings -1, flip back to Warriors -1. We'll see if the public comes back in on the Kings again. It's not that I think that Saturday night was a fluke. I don't. I think the Kings are good. The Warriors are on the road. They haven't proven they can win this season yet. I just can't come out of that game and feel like that was a performance that makes me feel like the Warriors or the Kings are the better team, that they should win this game. I can't get there. I simply can't get there in terms of how that game played out. Much of that game was how I felt like it was going to go down. You do have Steph Curry being a +11 in that game. You do have an advantage in terms of 3-point stuff. You do have the fact that Domantas Sabonis is almost unplayable in this series. Like, it is bad. Like, Sabonis finishes in that game. They were outscored when Sabonis was on the floor by 9 points in a game that they won with your primary starter, who's like the most important player on your team. That's absolutely wild. Like, that's crazy that you won a game in which Sabonis, your all-star, was a -9. When guarded by guarded by Kevon Looney, Sabonis shot 3 of 13. You go like, well, isn't he going to play better? I don't know. Like, I think this is a tough matchup for him. And he got cooked by Curry, just like we talked about in the series preview. Clay played badly. Wiggins shot worse. And those things should stabilize over the course of it. A lot of this is if the Warriors shoot a little better, just normal guys making a few more shots, they're going to be able to go ahead and they're not going to get run on defense. Curry was really bad in terms of his turnovers. He had 5 turnovers that led to a lot of like that feeds what they do. Curry's got to be better in terms of that kind of stuff, but I also trust him to get more settled down and figure this out because of how good they tend to be in terms of adjustments. So I will go ahead and I will back the Warriors here. You know, it doesn't feel great. Doesn't feel awesome after that game 1 when everything that I thought was wrong. But I am kind of curious to see what happens in this game. What do you think about Warriors -1?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you got to figure especially if you were on the Warriors to win this series, like you have to win this game, right? Like this is a must-win game for Golden State, I think. And the fact that they're still favored to win the series, I'm not sure if that's like a liability thing or not, but it sure seems that books are ready to take some Golden State action in this game. And they don't, they probably don't want it. They don't want to swing the Warriors being dogs after dropping 1 game. So I think that you're right in terms of the adjustments. And it does feel like one of those games where the Kings stole one, but they kind of needed to. And you figured they'd have to at least win one of these games at home to have a chance. So hopefully for my Kings futures, they don't let off the gas, but I think it could definitely be a little bit of a letdown spot after, an emotional game 1 victory for them.
To let you know how much of an outlier situation this is, I just looked this up over at Killer Sports, and a game 2 series in the first round where a team was a favorite in the first game is a favorite in the second one. Like Warriors did not, I don't think, close as a favorite in that one. Are on the road and they lost the first one. That's never happened. Team's never been favored. Since 2003, a team has not been favored in game 2 on the road after losing game 1 as a favorite.
Crazy. That's crazy.
And even as a dog, the only one that we have is the 2021 Lakers were a dog in the previous one and favored in the second one because Chris Paul got hurt. That was the only situation which that's happened in the first round. I do want to look this up and see what it looks like. Yeah, no, I took off the first round. That's never happened in the playoffs period. That team
that's crazy.
A dog in the first one, a favorite in the second one, on the road, lost the first one. Never that's only that Lakers Suns game is the only one that's ever happened.
I mean, it did feel like a game that the Warriors generally have, right? Like they generally win that game, but I'm nervous as like an NBA like watcher, right? Like I'm nervous that it's just like this is what the Warriors have been telling us they are all year.
Yep.
Like they're like okay, like they win all their home games, they lose all their road games. Like that's what my concern is looking at this game here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to Sixers and Nets. Make the case for the Nets for me.
All right. So obviously the Nets, they kind of hung in there during the first half, at least well enough, right? And then seemed to all fall apart a bit in the second half. And they moved the spread. It opened obviously last game at 8.5. This game we're getting 10. I think part of why I like Brooklyn here is that Philly just was bombing from deep and they shot 50% from 3. Obviously, this is something that we knew the Nets were probably going to try to do, and Brooklyn also shot well from 3. So it's a little bit tough to weigh those two things. But I think that Brooklyn has good 3-point shooting. So it's not all that surprising to me to see them, perform well from 3. Part of the problem for Brooklyn, though, is that they had 19 turnovers, which is just that's a problem. That's a major problem for them. And I think that they're maybe able to make a couple adjustments there. The one thing that I would like to see them do, and I'm not 100% confident that they'll do it, but they seem to, watching the game, Embiid was getting doubled at different points or different strategies, different ways, right? And I'm curious to see if after this first game where Philly just bombed from deep, that they're going to say, look, like we'd rather have, and it sounds crazy, like we'd rather have Embiid take more shots because Embiid's about like an average, about average in terms of efficiency, right? But he just gets so much volume and he's such a great finisher and he gets to the free throw line a lot that, he's able to put up these monster numbers and big scores. So I think from a math perspective, and Jacques Vaughn's is a good coach, I think that maybe they will say like, all right, like we'll live with that just because it's almost inevitable. And we'd rather cut down on 3-point shooting because that's where we can kind of get our edge. We can get our variance. And at 10 points, I like the spot, especially with the fact that Bridges kind of got whatever he wanted. So I think we see a little bit better game from Dinwiddie. And I think Bridges just continues to score it like pretty much at will.
Okay, so I hear you on this. I'm going with the historical edge here based off of the trend. Game 2, first round. If you're favored in the first one and you were favored in the second one and you're home and you're favored by more than you were in the previous close, 32-6 straight up, 24-14 for 63% ATS.
Yeah.
Here's the other one. This is since 2017. So let's take that sample and let's make it more recent with 3-point variance, which should lean a little bit more towards the underdog. 9-1 straight up, 8-2 at 80% ATS. So like the numbers say that when the line adjusts, the line movement is correct.
Yeah.
I bet Nets in that first game. Didn't feel bad about it. I was like, I can't get to this number. But the reality is, like, my numbers can't, even after I did all these adjustments for Kevin Durant and Steph and Kyrie Irving getting traded, and upgraded the Sixers for how well they've played. Like, after I've done like all of this, I can't account for how big of a matchup advantage in the playoffs the Sixers have. Like, being able to play starters more, and a team that doesn't really know how to play together, and a team that doesn't have any centers, and all these types of things. Like, Embiid didn't play well. Like, Embiid did not have a good game. And like, he shot 7-15 from the field. That's bad for him. He had 26 points. The guy averages 34. Like, this is simply like, he can play better. He should play better. He had 2 turnovers in that game. Now, I still see a lot of like some of the Sixers writers were like, you're just seeing how much better he is as a distributor, as a playmaker. He had 3 assists, and there was like a lot of like really like
they were all at the beginning too.
Yeah.
They all were at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. Like,
so
once the Nets settled into their rotations, like, he's still going to struggle with double teams. Like, I'll look at Embiid turnovers for game 2. However, Harden had such a massive game with 7 threes. He was 1 of 8 from 2-point range.
Weird,
right?
But,
like, okay, the Nets switch a lot. That's tough on Harden. Sure. Still weird. Tyrese Maxey, 3 of 8 from the, like, a lot of this was a game that the Nets should have stolen. Like, they should have taken that one.
Yeah.
And they didn't, because the gap between these two teams is just that wide based off of not only team quality, but matchup. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay the 10. I will see where I'm at for game 3 as far as a net spot. But right now, I want to be on the Sixers side, and I will live with the consequences if I get burned by, so it was closer, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like these first round series are tough right now for me.
They're brutal.
I'm just like, don't have a good feeling on what's going on. And I don't know what to take from game 1 and what to overreact to and what not to overreact to from the Saturday slate.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. Like, I'm on Philly to sweep this series. So like, I would be very surprised, honestly, if Brooklyn's able to win. I just think that at 10 points, because realistically, Brooklyn's gonna go home and the spread's gonna be what, like -6.5 probably, or something like that, which is like the 10 just when I'm looking at this, and I was tempted by the 8.5 in game 1. So when I'm seeing a 10 here now in game 2, and I think that Philly shot so well from deep that I think that they have some answers for Embiid just in terms of double teaming him and what the stress that can put on him. So I'll grab the 10 here, but we'll see how it shakes out.
This edge does drop when you go to a 10-point differential, or a 10-point line. I looked that up. If you favored at home, favored in the previous one at home, and the line has gone in your direction from game 1, if it's moved towards you, and it's a double digit, just 9 and 7 down to 56%. So bigger number, harder to cover. But I don't know. I think game 3 might be the Nets cover spot, but even then, like I'm gonna
They'll
have to
cover
see
one
how.
game. They'll
Yeah,
cover one game this series.
like it's really is like, can they cover one game in the series? Because it really
Yeah,
does look to be over. I want to ask you about um a couple of prop angles on this. Like
sure.
Mikal Bridges with 30 points in that game 1 to get outscored by 14. Do you think that there's going to be a massive adjustment in the market on Mikal? What do you like? How do you factor in Mikal's performance and what it looks like going forward?
I mean, they reopened his prop back again. I think it's 26.5 for today's for this game, for Monday's game, right? But the thing that I was watching is they were just sitting in their drop and just letting him kind of do whatever he wanted to do. In the second half, they started kind of throwing guys at him, like pretty much when he got the ball. But I don't think that Philly is all that concerned with a guy that's mostly taking twos, and they're just gonna say, like, we'll just do this. We're not gonna really foul you. We're not gonna send you to the line because he's a good free throw shooter, but we'll just kind of live with the consequences of you playing one-on-one with somebody that's going to just drop to the basket and make you take some floaters or like short twos. So I think that that's a spot like Brooklyn, if they're going to win or they're going to contend, you got to just let Bridges kind of do his thing and hope that some of the other supporting guys can bang out their threes. So I think that he's still in a spot that I would bet. And I think that Dinwiddie's assists, like he started with 6 assists in the first half and then managed 1 in the second half. They set him again at 8.5. That's a spot that I think I want to go back to the well with, even though we missed. It felt like Brooklyn just wasn't like he was turning the ball over. He was making some bad passes. But I would, he's just, that's all he does. He just dimes now for them. So those are 2 spots that I would probably look at in that game.
So I thought that they would give Tyrese Maxey the majority of the minutes versus the bench units. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
they'll stagger and they may play Harden and Maxey, but they'll play Maxey. And instead, like Maxey played starter rotation.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised by that. To the point where I kind of wonder if the angle I want to play on the series from a prop side is DeAnthony Melton and
Okay.
maybe look at a PRA for him. I don't necessarily want to go on a specific angle. I want to try and get, because he can contribute in a lot of ways, right? Like he can
Yeah.
score. He shot 2 of 9 from the field, right? That's probably an outlier. He probably scores a little bit more there.
A little bit better, I would
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
yeah, rebounds and assists. So whenever his props come up, is that something I can like? I need you to be honest with me. Is that something that you would think is a solid play or not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially because he is somebody that can stretch the floor as well. Like he takes a lot of threes. I might be interested in like a 1-3 and then like an alt like a lower line on his PRA because you can kind of do that on some of the same game parlay builders, right? So
Okay.
it's like you figure if he's gonna hit that, he has to score a little bit. So and he takes a lot of threes. So if you add like 1-3 and then assuming his PRA is at what, like 12.5, maybe if you take it down to 10,
Yeah.
then it's like, it's like you have your odds to hit this skyrocket, right?
Okay.
So I think that might be a way to take Melton in a role where you're looking at, and I think you're reading it right too. You're just like, he's getting more minutes, and the odds of a blowout are like always at risk here, right? So Melton would play in that spot. Like he'd get a little bit more run if the game kind of gets out of hand, I would say. And he's good enough, especially defensively, that you're going to want him on the floor kind of no matter what. Like he's going to be in the rotation.
Maxey had a bad game. He shoots 3 of 8 from the field, just 8 field goal attempts. 6 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals for Maxey, but just 13 points on 8 shots.
I wonder if that's a Bridges thing, right? Like, because I thought they would use Bridges more on Harden, but maybe the Sixers' idea was if we play Maxey and Harden, it forces them to use Bridges on Maxey because of the speed, and then that kind of opens up Harden a little bit. So maybe that's kind of what they're doing. They're like sacrificing Maxey for the ability to have Dinwiddie on Harden instead.
Yeah, so that'll be the big adjustment I think for game 2 is whether or not they move, because part of this is the Nets will pre-switch, right? Because
Yeah.
Harden's just going to be like, I'm like,
I'm not going to deal with you.
yeah, Harden's never going to be like, oh, I want to ISO the hardest defender. He's going to be like, give me the big, give
me somebody else.
Yeah, give me Claxton. So like we'll see what kind of like how they orchestrate that, but that's something to watch maybe as the series goes on.
Yeah.
If the Nets get into, we're gonna pre-switch and have Bridges guard, I don't know, they can't guard Embiid.
No. So
but
like
having
you
guard
have
Tobias or
like
whatever.
bias, yeah, which is
Yeah. Try and pre-switch some of that. Maybe that's a mechanic we can watch out for.
yeah.
All right. So Joe's got Nets plus 10. He's got Steph Curry over 1.5 rebounds in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I've got Warriors -1. Just take care of business, Dubs. Come on. And I've got Sixers -10. We'll see how it goes. Check back tomorrow. We'll have another episode tomorrow for the Tuesday slate. Make sure to check that out. I'll actually be back. This is coming up on Monday morning. Those episodes will normally hit your inbox late in the afternoon. That's our normal schedule. Is like they will be up in the afternoon the day before the next day's games, so you can kind of think about it and listen to it and think about your bet and give you a little bit of time before those games start. You can check those out in the feed. Our thanks to David Payne, our producer, as always. Make sure to follow Joe on Twitter and in the Action Network app. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Till then, let's get buckets.